Swing Station with Clay, the lead singer of Gasoline Lollipops. First things first, like how'd you guys get started? You've been doing this for a while?
Well, the name has been attached to a band
Yeah.
for a long time, but that band that it first was is no longer. So the only thing that remains is the name and me, although I don't remain the same. Only the name remains the same.
Well, you got to keep growing, so.
Exactly. Yeah, we try to keep things fresh.
Yeah. So that's one thing I do like about a lot of your music is I saw you have the trilogy album. I think it's Death, Resurrection, and Dawn.
Not necessarily in that order, but yeah. Dawn, Death, and Resurrection.
Is there like a little bit of the Dante's Inferno, Divine Comedy with that, or was it more your personal journey?
I mean, yeah, life is a comedy, you know, and it is purgatory.
Yeah.
So in that sense, yes. You see a lot of reoccurring themes in all three of the albums.
Yeah.
But yeah, typically the first one is a little bit more acoustic oriented. It's more features the fiddle a lot more.
Which was really cool. I liked it.
Yeah, thanks. So it's more folk oriented, and then Death is definitely focuses on the electric guitar, and it's a psychedelic mess. I didn't plan for this, but I was sober, like in recovery, for the first album.
Really?
And then I fell off the wagon for the second album.
Really?
And then I was back on the wagon for the third album.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool. There's this whole like curvature there.
Yeah, the second album, I mean, you can hear the difference, you know. For the second album, Death, we went up to this barn up near the Peak to Peak Highway.
Really?
And it was in the dead of winter, and we all went up there with a sheet of acid and a couple handles of whiskey. We pitched tents in the barn, and we set up microphones, and we just stayed in there for like 6 days, eating acid, drinking whiskey, and playing songs. Everything was recorded totally live, no overdubs, no click tracks.
That's really intense.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was intense. And then it was called Death because we almost died recording.
Well, like hypothermia, or were you guys kind of having some crazy antics?
Yeah, crazy antics. And it was cold as shit.
Nice, good.
Yeah. I was living in Texas,
Really?
on the prairie, when I was like 18.
Cool.
It wasn't cool at all. I was living in this like trailer that had been a meth lab, and me and my girlfriend were both working the graveyard shift. So we get home, this is in the dead of summer in Texas. We get home, it's already like over 100 at 8 o'clock in the morning. We had no AC. So I'd fill up a kiddie pool. I'd like get a couple bags of ice on my way home and a bottle of Thunderbird, that really cheap wine.
Yeah.
And I'd fill the kiddie pool with ice water, and I'd sit in the kiddie pool drinking my Thunderbird until I passed out. Pass out in front of a box fan. You'd be able to sleep for like half an hour until you dried out.
No way.
All over again.
Was that
Nightmare.
Nightmare?
Yeah.
Do you miss that though? Like the horrible times?
No, not at all. I mean, well, I'm glad I had them
Yeah.
because they give me a lot of material to write with.
Yeah.
And it gives me a lot of perspective and gratitude for life as it is today. But those times were super crazy, you know. I was living down there with Towns Van Zant's goddaughter.
Really?
Yeah, and she was just as messed up as he was. Like, he was her hero. And that's where we set the bar, you know.
Nice.
Towns was like a glue huffing, like, junkie.
Really?
You know? Yeah. And that's where we set the bar for, like, having a good time. So I'm lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
And extremely miraculous that I would ever get sober. Sorry, I derailed our conversation.
Oh no, this is what it's
how I
meant.
got onto kiddie pools and huffing glue.
But this is what it's meant to be. It's just kind of
Okay.
like you had a life, and how did you get here? Like what spurred you? Because
pretty much when I'm talking with anybody, all roads lead to kiddie pools and huffing glue.
nice. It's a good place to be, I guess. Fond memories.
Warms me to my cockles.
Do you mind if I kind of rattle off a couple things that I think might be influences for you guys?
By all means.
All right. So, first one right away is Johnny Cash.
His early stuff is like okay. Well, I'm more of an Elvis guy.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I liked. For that old school kind of rockabilly stuff, I like Jerry Lee Lewis and
So I was going to ask, like Buddy Holly.
Buddy
like,
Holly was maybe my first influence ever.
Really?
Yeah, I remember 6 years old hearing a Buddy Holly album, and I went crazy. I went like berserk. I had this Nerf bat, and I started beating myself in the head with it, like punk rock style. I didn't know I was a punk rocker yet.
Yeah.
But I was like, I wanted it to be a glass bottle. I loved the music so much. I wanted to shatter glass bottles over my head. That's how excited I was about Buddy Holly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Like when you're driven that much where it just sparks something in you.
Yeah.
Like then you have to chase it. Like you can't ignore that.
Yeah, I think my fate was sealed that first time I heard Buddy Holly.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But more onto like the punk rock side. I definitely hear sort of Social Distortion kind of when I listen to your
I
stuff.
like Social Distortion a lot. Big fan of NoFX and Operation Ivy.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Punk rock was introduced to me at a really crucial time in my life where I was living in rural Tennessee, and I was a punk rocker. Well, I didn't know I was a punk rocker. Again, still didn't know, right? But I was a freak. They just called me a freak. That's what they called me. At school, I was getting the crap beat out of me every day at school. I got institutionalized. I was getting thrown in jail all the time for fighting. And then it was pretty destructive, you know. And I had a lot of anger. I had a lot of anger towards the state, towards the man, you know, towards the establishment of the public school down there. Our mascot was the Rebels.
Oh, so you're just sparked off by that anyway.
Yeah, and I moved there from Boulder, you know, and then I moved to this high school that's like half black, half white, and our mascot is the Rebel flag hanging outside the school.
No way.
Yeah, and so I got into fights a lot, you know. I was very mouthy. I didn't hesitate to tell rednecks what I thought about them, and they weren't hesitant to tell me what they thought about me. You know, using sign language mostly. And then I found punk rock. There was this outcast kid in the school. He kept his head down. He didn't talk.
Didn't make any waves.
Yeah, he was really quiet. But he approached me once, asked me if I wanted to play bass in a band he was forming.
Oh, cool.
And I said, I don't know how to play bass. And he goes, that's not a problem. I got
punk
one
rock.
for you. Yeah, it was sort of the Sid Vicious story, you know? Like, he didn't know how to play the fucking instrument.
Oh, yeah, picked him off the street and said, hey, be a
punk
star.
Rock, right. So he thought I was punk rock, even though I didn't know what punk rock was.
Oh, you totally were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I got into fights all the time, because I was mouthy and I was always causing a ruckus, I dyed my hair different colors and all this shit. So he wanted me in his band. So he sort of gave me the introduction to punk rock and started giving me these records to listen to, you know.
That's awesome. So around like what time period was this? The 80s, the 70s?
No.
90s?
90s. It was, well, I guess it was like 93 probably.
Okay, so you're like early 90s, like grunge was still big, like Angst was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of flannel.
Yeah, he was way into Nirvana.
Oh, awesome.
Kurt Cobain was his hero. But I was too punk rock for that. Because I didn't like anything that was on the radio. Like,
really?
I just had to, like, I was against anything that was on the radio. My sister was, my dad's record collection and my sister's record collection were my record collection, and none of them were radio.
Really?
Ranging all the way back to, like, weird psychedelic rock albums from my dad's record collection to, like, Violent Femmes and They Might Be Giants and weird shit like that my sister was listening to.
But so that stuff is what kind of like once you get to the core of punk rock and you get more and more past the publicized stuff and more and more past the more produced stuff.
Yeah.
So that was great about Sex Pistols was they were underproduced. Just hey, go out there and perform.
Yeah.
But I think the band manager was like a sex shop owner. He was just some guy that was into the freak culture.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was the other thing about this kid who asked me to be in his band is he was into Public Image Limited, which was Johnny Rotten's like his revival band that he started.
Oh, really?
I fucking hated that. I was like, it was awful because he was going for radio and it's fucking Johnny Rotten. Like,
yeah.
Just, hang it up or kill yourself. Like, be punk rock, you know what I mean?
It's that, like, burn out or fade away sort of thing.
Exactly, and that's written about him.
Yeah.
And then he goes and proves the point. So anyways, we started this punk rock band called Breach, and I was playing bass. And
nice.
That was, like, my first band, and that was where I first learned to play music, and I started writing some of the songs on the bass. And then eventually I was writing all the time, like so much so that I wasn't going to school.
Oh, really?
And I would just be like, then I started playing guitar because it's more conducive for writing songs. And I was on my guitar 8 hours a day at least.
What?
For probably 7 years. Dropped out of high school because I thought I was either going to be a musician or a hobo. And high school wasn't preparing me for either one of those. So, and then I hit the road and started hitchhiking and traveling and until I finally met a girl here in Fort Collins, actually.
Really?
Yep. And I've been stuck to her ever since.
She made you participate?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So we've been married like 12 years now.
Yo, congrats. That's awesome.
Thanks. And but yeah, I mean, you know, Gasoline Lollipops started for the same reason because I was living in Boulder County. We moved down to Boulder.
Yeah.
And all there was jam bands and bluegrass bands. And I thought, what will really piss these people off? And I thought, I know, I'll give myself a Liberty Spike mohawk and start a punkabilly band.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I did, and we called it Gasoline Lollipops, and there was just two of us, me and the original drummer, and we were just a punk duo.
Really?
And, yeah, it's pretty raw.
Yeah, but that's what's good because some of your songs, I got a little bit of the Misfits.
Yeah.
Just like a hint of it, not anything direct, but there
There's
was
definitely some of that in there.
Yeah.
Like the Cramps or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
That like zombie Elvis thing, you know, like if Elvis came back from the grave and saw what they did to Graceland, what kind of music would he sing? You know, what kind of songs would he write about it?
Any like David Bowie?
Not so much. Again, it's like kind of pushed on me by my friends who were into David Bowie. But David Bowie, like honestly, I definitely recognize his brilliance. Just like I recognize Pink Floyd's brilliance.
Yeah.
But both of them make me feel so creepy.
Really?
Yes, I don't know what it is, but like, and I listen to some dark shit.
Yeah.
You know? Like I love Tool, right?
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Tool doesn't make me feel dark or creepy. It makes me feel like good.
Yeah.
It makes me feel wholesome inside. I listen to David Bowie or Pink Floyd, and I can't stand it. I get the creeps. I have to like go around the house and turn all the lights on, and like it freaks me out. I think it has to do with the David Bowie when I was like 12 years old. For some reason, my dad thought it was a good idea to show me what is it, The Man Who Fell to Earth?
Oh yeah.
Fucked up movie, man.
Yeah.
And it's David Bowie stars in it, and it's really psychologically disturbing.
Yeah.
And then same thing, about the same time when I was 12 years old, my cousin and I got super high together, and he put on The Wall. And it's like, it's one of the first times I ever got high, so it's like psychedelic. And then all of a sudden there's all this Nazi shit and the guy cutting his nipples off.
So the movie, not the album.
Yeah,
the movie is freaky.
And that was the first time I ever heard the music.
Oh,
was
really?
In conjunction with the movie while I'm stoned. So since then I'm just like, no, I can't.
It's just too much of a shock.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yeah.
I just see children falling into a meat grinder.
With the weird plastic face.
Yeah, with the burned eye holes. Ugh.
But that's good cinema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it is. I never saw it again after. Sort of like Clockwork Orange. The first time I saw Clockwork Orange, my girlfriend was sitting next to me eating chicken McNuggets while we're watching this, and I was 15. And 10 years later, I walk into a room and somebody's watching that movie, and instantly I smell and taste chicken McNuggets.
Because it was such a shock that you just got that like sense memory. And oh, that's nuts.
I know. I really wish we would have been having sex. Of course, then every time I have sex, I would have thought about
Clockwork Orange.
The dude's eyeballs.
Ludovico treatment. Yeah. So, did you ever listen to like Jesus and the Mary Chain or Bauhaus?
Yeah, that again, I never really got into. Like my sister liked Jesus and the Mary Chain, and
cool.
This dude that I cooked with for a lot of years in Nashville loved Bauhaus, and it's like I don't know what it is, but there's like there's like a
horror to it.
Yeah, and there's like a moral disconnect. You know what I mean? Whereas like that's what I love about Tool, because they can get really fucking dark but there's always a moral, and there's always like a really fucking...
You're still attached.
And there's a very deep narrative lyrically going through what he's saying. You know what I mean? And there's usually a moral, you know, like even though we might get dark, there's a moral at the end of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that Violent Femmes song, Country Death song. It's all about like fucking taking his daughter out to the well and shoving her into the well and like killing his own daughter. But at the end, he's like, he goes out to the barn and hangs himself, and that's the fucking moral.
And there's justification.
Right. Unlike like Insane Clown Posse, that just fucking glorifies rape and murder, and there's no moral at the end. It's just like, and then we made a bunch of money.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that's what's tough is because. So I think that a lot of like post-punk, especially, it's like reading Ecclesiastes in the Bible, where everything else is the morals, and you have the, all right, this is how it is, like this is how it should be, but then you get to Ecclesiastes, and sometimes it just says,
and this exists.
It's there, like there's times for all of this, but you got to take a step back and realize, hey man, like it might all be a joke, but still try your hardest.
Yeah, and I would never say that a certain kind of music should not exist.
Oh, cool. Except country music.
I wouldn't say that. No,
that's a complete joke. There's really good stuff.
I think that there's a place for every kind of music because we have every kind of person. You know? But there's just not a place for every kind of music in my record collection.
Yeah, exactly. And so, because music's a very personal thing.
Yeah.
And even as far as you get some people and like all they listen to is pop, and that's fine, but I couldn't do that.
Right. It's also about your personal experience in life and what you've experienced and what you romanticize. A lot of people are way into war movies.
Oh, yeah.
Most of those people are not vets.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I've noticed that most vets don't care to watch war movies.
Yeah.
Because they fucking lived it, right? And I guess for me, it's kind of the same with that kind of music. Music that just really clearly portrays depression and doesn't offer like a way out.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I've been there. Like
so,
I live that.
And
you know?
I've done the same. Like I've had a kind of like a rough, like growing up, and having that though was the realization at least someone else out there
for sure
had that same sort of experience or mindset and stuff like that.
And that's how it was for me with Leonard Cohen. When I discovered Leonard Cohen, I was so fucking depressed and so isolated. And I heard him, and I could trust him because I knew he was also depressed and isolated.
Yeah.
But over and over and over again, he sets his intention to rise above, and he sets his intention to reach out, and over and over again he tries to love and he tries to connect. And he gets broken over and over, but he never stops trying. And the great thing about Leonard Cohen is he didn't off himself at 27. We got to watch the whole arc of his career, and finally in his fucking 80s there's resolution. I mean, it took him a long time, but in his 80s he's finally like he's singing songs about how he loves life and how he's gonna miss life.
Oh, that's awesome.
And how he's not regretting all the heartbreak, and it was all worth it. Because he had these realizations and these awakenings, and I could see that he was reaching to get out of the fucking quagmire, and that's what really attracted to me more than the fact that he was in it. Because I looked around and pretty much everybody's in the quagmire, whether they recognize it or not. And some people revel in it.
Oh yeah,
you know,
it's their whole identity.
A lot of people make careers off of just fucking magnifying it. You know. Yeah. And so I want to feel a part of. I want to feel connected. I want to know that I'm not alone in this shithole.
Yeah.
But I also want people.
Silver lining.
Yeah, I want people that are building something better. You know?
So and that is definitely a great thing to look for, and that's why a lot of people that are kind of my idols are my idols for those reasons. So George Carlin, my number one favorite guy, him and Hunter S. Thompson. So I got to see George Carlin when I was 16 and live, and it was awesome. And it was funny because growing up and listening to a lot of his albums, he is very dark. In the 70s, he starts out kind of like, hey, let's look at what we're doing. like the 7 words you can't say on TV is like brilliant.
Totally.
And later on, he kind of gets bogged down by all this. He's like, there's no change. There's nothing that's being built better. It's just getting worse and worse. And it was great because when I saw him live, it's when I think his last album before that was Life is Worth Losing. So the theme of his like last tour that I got to see was Life is Worth Living. And it was really cool to see him have this turnaround.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that about him. I mean, his despair was very apparent.
Yeah.
You know? And he was being really public about it. But I was noticing it was like less and less comedy and more commentary, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing I kind of look to comedians for, though.
But fuck, same thing with Robin Williams. Like, how fucking depressing is that? Like, I mean...
Because that's the other side of it, where, like, the high energy's there all the way, but then all of a sudden it's just like, I can't take it.
But his whole career, he was pointing at all these points of suffering, and like shining a light on it and bringing levity to it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he lost his ability to do that, and it just fucking killed him.
And that's one thing with Hunter S. Thompson, was fantastic writer, like commentator about just the American culture. Couldn't believe it. And then one night he just did too much coke, and he kind of lost his.
I don't know that he lost his sense of humor. He just like he lost his ability to like laugh at this joke. This joke was no longer funny to him. Yeah. He had said all he had to say. But he didn't lose his sense of humor. He still had his fucking ashes shot into fucking space in a giant fist.
Yeah, holding the peyote button like until the day he dies. But that was his thing, because his letter when he committed suicide was just very like, football season's over. It's just a madhouse. Yeah. I'm tired.
Yeah, he was tired.
Yeah.
And that's legit to me. You know what I mean?
That's very real.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, because when I was in high school, those times when I struggled with depression, and I wanted a way out, but I didn't want to kill myself. I was just like, hey God, come on, just if I take it up. Yeah. But seeing a lot of this other stuff and just kind of having faith that it can get better if you put your mind towards it. Yeah. That was really important.
The most exhausting thing out here, the most exhausting thing going is our own mind. You know what I mean? And like, it's one thing to be exhausted in your late 70s. That's totally
understandable.
But I don't feel like you're ever too exhausted to just breathe.
Oh yeah.
You know, but
to take a step back.
Right, but when you've been this public figure your whole life, you feel a responsibility. And it's like, oh, I gotta keep making my commentary. I gotta keep making my statement. I gotta keep putting out my albums.
Yeah.
That is fucking exhausting, especially if you're late 70s, 80s, like Leonard Cohen was. Yeah. He put out a fucking record the year he died. You know, at 84.
That's crazy.
It's nuts. He was for all intents and purposes, paralyzed. He was like in a hospital chair. He couldn't move. He had a degenerative spine disease. Oh. And he had a laptop on the table in front of him, and he was recording a fucking album. He wasn't exhausted, you know?
Yeah.
Hunter S. Thompson was. He shouldn't have. I mean, shouldn't. Who am I to say? But I feel like he could have just removed himself
for a while
from the spotlight, gone into the mountains.
Yeah.
Sat there and breathed.
Well, that was one of the things. He lived out in the middle, I think, like in the middle of forest and mountain country, but
he was also like wrecked. You know, he had fucking done enough drugs to kill an army.
That's one of my favorite quotes about him. Is someone said is like, no matter what he put into his body, there was no change. Like it could have been alcohol, weed.
Yeah, on a relative level. On a human attachment level, if you're in love with somebody or it's your child or your mother, it really fucking matters if they kill themselves.
Completely. Because you don't understand why, and you have all these ideas where like I should have been able to help them. Like why couldn't I do something for this?
Yeah, but the problem remains with you. I don't personally. That's just my opinion. I don't feel that the problem passes on with them. I don't believe in the Christian story about if you kill yourself, you go to hell and all this shit. I don't necessarily think that all your problems are over and it's fucking peaches and cream on the other side either. Yeah. I don't know, but I do believe this particular mortal coil is over. Mm-hmm. Maybe you're on to a different coil that you're equally entangled in. I don't know, but I feel like freedom of choice, freedom of self-will. I mean, this planet's pretty overpopulated as it is, so to be telling people they're not allowed to kill themselves if they're done.
Yeah.
If they're really done. I don't know, man. I mean, I only say that because I've had a lot of experience, like being institutionalized and having family members that are bipolar and schizophrenic. And,
ability in your own hands and not leave it up to someone else.
I mean, my opinion is all drugs should be legal and suicide should be legal. It's we're all creating our own reality, no matter what the fuck you're doing. The thoughts in your head are telling you the story of what's real and what's not, whether you're sober or on drugs.
Because you take so much information in, and your brain literally only processes a small amount of it. So you're getting what your brain decides is the acceptable reality.
Yeah, and I'm of the impression that death is definitely not the end. You know what I mean? Energy just transforms. I don't know, man. I mean, I only say that because I've had a lot of experience, like being institutionalized and having family members that are bipolar and schizophrenic, and seeing when there's something worth living for, and seeing when there's not.
Yeah.
When you get to the point where you are fucking alone, you're completely isolated, and you're so medicated. They've got you medicated to the point where
you're a zombie and your brain's not even really functioning.
Exactly. And people got to feed you, and people got to take you from point A to point B, and you're that medicated just so you won't kill yourself. For what?
Yeah.
So that you can have slop shoveled in your face 3 times a day and get your diaper changed? Fuck that.
But you got to keep living.
Right.
Sanctity of life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. That's where I stand on that. Not that it matters.
Well, I think it does. And this might not be in, this might be cut out, who knows, but I feel like it's like a right almost, because if you look at like Asian cultures and stuff, if you are dishonorable, it's acceptable for you to kill yourself and then you restore your honor. And it's an interesting, different viewpoint. Whereas out here, it's even if you're someone with like stage 4 cancer and you know you're going to die in 6 months, but it's just going to be like 6 months of you bleeding and being in pain and being awful, then they're just uncomfortable saying that you can kind of take that into your hands.
It's a certain concept of a creator,
and
a great assumption that we have any fucking idea what, if there is a creator, what that creator thinks about this shit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, our life is so precious that it is a cardinal sin to take it. Unless you're gay, that's, you know what I mean? Like, God doesn't create gay people.
And you're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, well, how do they exist then?
Yeah.
God is a creator. God is either everything or God is nothing.
Yeah.
That's what they say, right?
And like, so, and it goes to that point where...
So God does, I mean, if God created everything, God created homosexuals, God created bipolar people.
Yeah.
God created Dr. Kevorkian.
Yeah.
Right.
And it goes back to that old George Carlin bit where he says, where's the people who talk about sanctity of life when you're trying to cure disease or when you're trying to like treat cancer cells? Yeah. You're not out there saying like save the melanoma.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a certain ability to look at death, because part of American culture, or at least like Christian culture, is death is a sad thing. It's terrible when it happens, but it happens.
Right.
If you look at stuff even like in South America or in Mexico, they celebrate it. It's like, hey, he passed on. Let's celebrate his life and enjoy what it was about.
Not only that, but third world countries, like you go to India, you see lepers on the street. You know? You see disease, you see old age, you see sickness, and you see death. It's all right on the street. You go to the butcher shop, and the head of the animal you're buying is hanging from a hook out front of the fucking store covered in flies.
Yeah.
So you know exactly what you're eating. Like, death is real. here it's so sterilized. We put our old people in fucking nursing homes. We put our sick people in hospitals.
Yeah.
And it's like, we want to put everything into storage units and only keep the beautiful, healthy people on the streets.
We want to keep up that idea that like life is sacred, that it should be a certain way,
and that there's no value in death, and that's the biggest lie.
Yeah.
Because the closer you are to death, the more alive you feel.
Yeah, and that's why there's people who are adrenaline junkies. They need to feel like, hey, this is dangerous, but I can control it. I can live through it.
And that's why people like being in love so much, because the rush, the high from being in love is knowing that this person has the power to destroy you.
Yeah.
At any minute.
They could just say, "I'm done," and you're mortified. You're a puddle on the floor. And
that's the most exhilarating part.
It's so scary though.
Because the second you know that you got him, you kind of lose interest. You're like,
Yeah.
Oh, really? You're not going to crush my heart? That's kind of boring.
It's a little bit sadist, but all right.
It's the truth. For me, anyways, that's been my experience. I do not want to be with a chick that's just all in.
Yeah.
Like my wife.
You need someone who's going to challenge you, and that's what the important part is. It's like, because in successful relationships I see is, if you fuck up, they say you fucked up, but I know you can get out of it. So show me that you can get out of it.
Yeah.
And there's times when people kind of just fall together, and they'll go through the motions, and they'll be like, well, we're together. I don't dislike you. Let's get a house. Let's get kids. And then, like, when they're 45, they figure, I can't do this. I don't feel anything. And it's just this horrible situation.
Yeah.
And I feel like it comes from people not really discerning what's important. Not really taking the risk of being yourself, because there's so many people, like, especially when you're younger, you see them where they need to be in a relationship, and as soon as they're done dating someone, they go and date someone else, and you're just like, you're not going to take like a minute to kind of reevaluate, like.
Yeah, I think it's a dissatisfaction with the present.
Yeah.
You know what is, and it's the wanting. It's the wanting that drives us, right?
Yeah.
It's not the having. It's like we all have these grand dreams, and we want them all to come to us right now.
Yeah.
But the irony is that the now is the one place we all refuse to be. You know.
Yeah.
And so how can we receive anything right now? Because we're not fucking here. We're constantly thinking about the future.
You're not
or
living.
regretting the past, or yearning for the past, or fearing the future, or longing for the future. And like...
But that's what the ultimate point of it all is it's only what's in this moment. Like, you can only be sure of what's real within this moment, because even your memory starts fuzzing, starts fading.
Everything is so transitory.
Yeah.
Everything's constantly shifting and changing. So like the idea that you would be bored with your partner because you've been with them for 10 years and you know everything there is to know about, that's a total fallacy.
You should be excited because you're like, no one gets me as much as this other person.
Well, they're also not the person that you got with 10 years ago. Not at all.
Oh, they grew. You know? They grew as much as you grew.
Yeah, and if you don't know that, it's only because you got too lazy to fucking get to know them again.
Yeah. To grow with them, and that's what happens sometimes. Someone gets stagnant, the other person starts still developing, and just can't. It just breaks apart. Yeah, it's pretty rough. Do you ever listen to Alan Watts?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like one of his things is it's doing without premeditation, and that's how you can really start living in the moment. Is because it's just doing the action, being spontaneous.
Yeah, spontaneity.
And it's, if you have it's even coming home and saying, oh, the dishes need to be done, and just, all right, I'll go do them, instead of saying, I'll do them at 8 o'clock, and I'll make my food at 6 o'clock, and I'll do all this other stuff.
Well, spontaneity is a characteristic of children, you know? And that's like who we really are. Everything beyond who we were as a child has just been conditioning and a lot of premeditated decisions on our parts. Like we look around, we say, oh, that guy, I want to be like that guy, he's cool.
Yeah.
So then we start fashioning ourselves. It's not who we really are.
Yeah.
You know, and we do that so many times throughout our lives that then we become this conglomerate of all these other people that we're mimicking their behaviors.
Yeah.
But who we really are at our core is that little fucking kid
that got started.
It was totally spontaneous, all the time, always in the moment. There was no thought of tomorrow or no thought of yesterday. They're always right there. Like little kids are always right there. And that's who we really are.
And that's kind of what freaked me out when I turned 18 and I started working in professional environments. And you go around and you're sitting there and like a 40-year-old makes a dumb decision or something that you see someone in high school do about like their relationship. And you start wondering, so when are they going to be an adult? And you realize it's like they're only an adult because they got a paycheck and they're paying rent.
And as you become the 40-year-old, you realize like, I'm still the same fucking kid that was like out there catching grasshoppers and skinning my knees. You know?
That's why you can go to eBay and you see toys from the 60s going for thousands of dollars.
Well, the same thing. I mean, I see a G.I. Joe today.
Yeah.
It's still, I have to fight the urge to just sit down and fucking
play with it.
Yeah.
I'm the same way with Legos. It's just like, no, I could spend $40 on that. Yeah,
totally. Yeah, I have a 5-year-old now, and he's weighing in Legos, and I just get lost there, man. Like, until my back is so fucked up from like being hunched over the Legos, you know?
Yeah.
My thumbnails are all cracked from prying them apart. Dangerous.
Yeah, but that's good. Like, and not losing that is really important because that's one of the hallmarks, I think, of the previous generation of the baby boomers is they were told, don't do that. You need to do this.
You got to work to keep it, man.
Yeah.
You know, society does not encourage that. Well, that's part of the decision with dropping out of high school, you know, and like becoming a musician, because along with that choice to become a musician is the choice that I would rather be broke and happy than rich and stressed. You know what I mean? And I got friends now that followed that career path, and not all of them, some of them chose wisely. You know, they chose the path that really jived with who they were and their passions, but so many of my friends chose based on a paycheck. Yeah. And that's what they're living for now, and they're fucking miserable, man. And it's like, so they make 6 figures a year, and I might never make that. Yeah. But they're all jealous of me. Yeah, because I'm the one doing what I love to do. You know? Exactly. And you can't really put a price on it. Exactly. And that's when because during the tough times when you have to keep trying and you have to dig through the dirt, that sort of take that someone else has, someone who's quote unquote made it, someone who's at that upper middle class area, and then they come to you and say, hey man, I can't believe that you did this and that you survived through it because I'm so jealous. But that makes it feel worth it in a lot of senses. For me, at least from the aspect of like your parents yapping at you to like make sure you get a job and have kids and settle down. I mean, the main thing is like raising my kid, and he's 5 years old, and just showing him that like you can follow your dreams. Yeah. And I mean, he doesn't want for anything. You know what I mean? He's totally stoked. He's got his Legos. We live in a really nice place, and like my motto these days is you don't have to be rich to live rich. Exactly. You know? You just got to be creative. Because we're in an age of overabundance. Yeah. And that is the hallmark of our times is we have everything, we can make everything. So why is everyone fighting about like... Why is everybody so fucking hungry? Yeah. Yeah, it's a hungry ghost realm, man. And it's one of those ideas where the government has the money. Like I think one time, a couple years ago, the Pentagon lost like $1 billion. Yeah. They just couldn't account for it. Yeah. And you're sitting there wondering, it's like, so why can't we just have free college? Yeah, right. How come we can't give food to people who are starving? And it's just this ridiculous sort of... There's no reason to not make everyone have the same starting. Yeah. The other thing is that technology, it's kind of fucked us in one way, but in another way, it's really opened up. Like, you just have to be creative. Like, I have friends that they make a living, granted a meager living, but they make a living off of like making their own clothes, right? Yeah. And they open up an Etsy shop and they promote it through Facebook, and there is no storefront, and you know, it's product to person purchaser. Yeah. Most of their stuff is over state lines, so they don't have to charge tax. And, that's great. You know, and everything that they buy is a tax write-off. Yeah. And, you know, there's ways around it. Like, and I think that's Vermont's style right now. Is almost everyone in Vermont either is at a logger or on Etsy making something. Yeah. Because Vermont's a great state. It's beautiful. They have like Colorado, they have one of those laws where there's no billboards. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so you go there and it's vacation and you're good and you're in nature.
I never realized that. There are no billboards here. Huh?
Right? Yeah, and it just feels great. You guys are going out to Belgium and like the Netherlands for a winter tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, how'd you work that out?
Our friends Casey Presswood and the Burning Angels, they're a local country band from Denver.
Yeah.
And they play like really classic honky tonk and country. And they got this tour in the Netherlands and Belgium, and they played like a handful of maximum security prisons.
No way.
So there's this concert promoter over there that books purely American country acts, and part of the tour is that you get to play maximum security prisons. So Casey was telling us about that. I was like, shit, that sounds like a blast.
You had to jump on it.
We should do that. So he put us in contact with the concert promoter. He loved us.
Yeah.
And so we got the ball rolling. He starts booking it. But the thing I was so stoked about was the prisons. But when he pitched our music to the prisons, we're not classic country, right? We're like pretty rock and roll.
Yeah.
And the prisons were like, no, we can't play that in here.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
Insider Irish. But we're still going. So we're playing, and it's busy too. We're playing, I think, 20 dates in 21 days.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And then right after that, you have like a little bit of a break, and then you go down to Belize.
Yeah. Well, after that, we come back and we release our new record at the Fox on December 16th. Right before we leave on tour, October 27th, we're playing the Aggie here. We're headlining the Aggie.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And then, release our new album December 16th, and then go down to Belize for our annual Belize, whatever it is, blowout. We do it every January, so it's a lot of fun.
No, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but do you feel like you've made it to that point where you just enjoy it to the maximum?
I definitely enjoy it to the maximum. I'm broke as shit.
Yeah.
But like I said, you don't have to be rich to live rich. Like, I get to go see Europe for the first time. I get to go spend the winter in Belize with my family. Like, they fly my family down with me.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so we don't come home with any money in our pocket, but we get free vacations.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'll take it.
And that's what the point is. Like.
Yeah. And like right now in Boulder, which we cannot afford to live in, we were about to have to leave because our apartment was being sold and we couldn't find anything we could afford. And then this Gas Pops fan who lives in like one of the nicest fucking neighborhoods in Boulder, he heard that we were in this
dire
jam,
straits,
and he has an apartment, like a totally separate apartment in his house. He paid his tenants $1,000 to move out, and he moved us in for half of what they were paying.
No way.
And so now we live in like the nicest neighborhood in Boulder, and we're paying $800 a month.
But that's because you were you, and like.
It's just because I follow my dream.
Yeah.
And it inspires some people.
Yeah.
You know? And I don't know. I just keep doing it. I'm gonna do it whether or not it inspires people, because I'm either gonna live free or die.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm gonna do what I love or I'll fucking die. I'll take a Hunter S. Thompson way out. Seriously. And
Yeah.
that's why I don't argue with that. That's why I don't condemn it, because but I will say it's way better to find a creative way to live.
To
find something that you love.
Find a reason to hold
and to
on.
do it, even if it makes you poor, even if it makes you financially strapped.
Yeah,
no
because
matter
you're
what,
living it to the end instead of just
we have
taking
a very
it easy.
short amount of time.
Yeah.
You know, at the end it looks like a fucking breath, one breath, and like how did you breathe it?
It's just a little blip. Yeah.
You know, did you enjoy it? Did you love what you were doing?
Yeah.
Or did you just fucking grind it out? And then
Because
at the end
you
of it,
thought you had to grind it out.
yeah, and then swallow a bottle of pills at the end. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
What a waste.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So make your suicide mean something.
Make your life mean something.
There you go.
Yeah.
Do you have like a closing message for like anyone, like to kind of wrap up your?
Don't do drugs, kids. But if you do a lot of them.
All right, thanks, Clay.
Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. Have a good one, man.
Yeah, you too.
So Digging in the soul, I'm looking at the door. The sun that shines, all the fans cold. All I felt was shame when I heard the devil calling my name. It's been a long time. Digging in the soul, I'm looking at the door. The sun that shines, life springs from the bottom of the well. Faith is born in the forge of hell. It's been a long time. So I love the sun that shines. All I felt was cold, all I felt was shame. When I heard that devil call my name. It's been a long time. Digging in the soul, I love the sun that shines. Life springs from the bottom of the well. Faith is born in the forge of hell. Thanks a lot, y'all.